Hey guys, Ed Lee here at Barnabas Robotics. The plan today is to do a quick tutorial slash build guide on one of these new kits that we're going to be coming out with. So some of you guys out there already have it and have started building it. So you're one of the lucky ones to kind of try it out first. A little bit of context on this. This is called the Minibus project. It's one of the Tinker classes that I used to teach, and that's where we teach electronics and mechanical design to kids starting from age 5 all the way up to age 12. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, I'm gonna switch the camera view here. All right, so here's our kit. And so again, if you've already built half the kit, you can feel free to skip ahead in the video, but I wanted to go ahead and just kind of put everything in here. All right, so I'm going to open the box, and we're just going to quickly just make the base of the car. Okay, so I'm going to pull this guy out, put this to the side. So this will be the chassis here, and then we have a sticky foam. All right, and then we stick it on there. Take the top part off. Okay, and then we have to have what we call a bushing inside this bag, which is going to be the little straw. The bushing is the thing that's going to hold our axle, okay, which is the part that spins and connects to our wheels. So I'm going to put that there so it's sticky. Cool. And then since this is still kind of sticky, I don't really like that. So what I can do is in here, grab one of these stickers, nice little stickers, and stick it over there. Okay, so now we have our bushing and we have our attached to our chassis. And then we go ahead and grab our axle, which is right here. And we can stick through. Nice. And then we get our bag of wheels. Now there are 4 of these in here. I'm just going to take 2 of them out for now. 1 and 2. Okay, I'm going to move some of this stuff out of the way here. And let's go ahead and put our little rubber wheels on there. Like that. And then these got this hole here. It's going to stick through that into the axle. Boom and boom. Here we go. All right. All right. So now the next thing is we got to work with, I'm going to put this to the side. Okay. We want to work with the motor. Now the motor is the electrical part, and that's where the battery comes into effect. So before we do that, if you look at the top right corner here, I'm going to draw what we call a schematic, okay, which is the path of the circuit. All right, so I'm going to draw a heart and a plus and a minus. Okay, so one thing I mentioned in classes is that the heart of a robot is going to be the battery. Okay, and the battery has a plus and a minus. So inside your kit, in this bag, you're going to have 2 batteries. We just want 1 for now. All right, and now for electricity to work, we need to make what's called a closed circuit. All right, let me explain how that works. So I'm going to draw our motor. Okay, now our motor has 2 wires coming out, a black and a red one. So the black wire goes like this. It needs to connect to the minus, and the red wire connects like this, needs to go to the plus. So what you have here is a closed circuit. So electricity is going to go from the plus through the motor to make it turn on and back to the minus. All right, so we just want to do that. Make sure that that works. So we can just take this, the minus, the flat side, connect the black there, and then the red there. And you can see that it's spinning. So everything's good. So that's called a closed circuit. If I want to turn it off, it's the opposite of closed. It's called open circuit. So we just let go and no electricity flow because there's a broken gap in our circuit. So this is called an open circuit. All right, so now let's go ahead and put these wheels on. So I'm gonna go like this, put our rubber wheel there, put another rubber wheel there, and then what you do is you see there's this side right here will actually stick on like Lego onto there. All right, so we do both sides. Okay, and then the thing you want to do inside this bag here, I'm just gonna kind of dump these things out for now. We have these 3 screws. Okay, we only need 2 of these. There's an extra one just in case you lose it, and I'll put the other stuff to the side for now. What you can do is take the screw and put it in that hole right there in the middle, and then we screw it on to attach it with this little baby screwdriver to make sure that it's fastened. All right, there we go. Both sides. Okay, now the next thing we want to do, I'm going to bring back this guy, our chassis. We want to attach this together. So there's a few different ways to do it. You could do it like this, or it's below the chassis. You can have it up here. Either way. So I'll just put it on top. Now the way we're going to do that is just with another sticky foam. Okay, so grab another one of these. You could stick it at the bottom here. Undo the sticky. And then we stick it on. All right, so things are looking pretty good. What I want to do now is I want to get this bag, and inside of here we're going to have these 2 batteries. Battery holders or battery housing. So we grab one of these, and then we take our battery, because it's going to help hold our battery, and we put the minus, which is the flat side, into the spring. So you stick it in like that. Now these 2 will then snap into these wires like Lego. 1 and 2. And now it's moving. Cool. All right, so then now let's go ahead and stick this onto here. All right, so we're gonna take another sticky foam, put one here, and then I can take this guy and stick it on there. Now, one of the things I kind of want to keep in mind is that these wires right here could actually get stuck on the wheel, so it's kind of something to watch out for. All right, so if that's the case, you might want to move the battery, or maybe tape the wire like this or something if it becomes a problem. Just something to keep in mind. Okay, so now that it's in there, now my robot is moving around pretty well. All right, let me open circuit it. Okay, now the next thing is let's build it with 2 batteries. So 2 batteries is going to actually give us double the power, and the way that these motors work, these are called DC motors, it will be double the speed as well. All right, so going back, look at your top right corner of the screen here. Let's see what it looks like to add 2 batteries. So what I'm going to do is open this up part, this part right here. I'm going to add a second battery. Okay, I'm going to call the top one is 1 and the bottom one is 2. Okay, and then what we have to do, we have to connect it this way. They need to stack on top of each other. All right, so what we do is then we take and I'm gonna draw a different color. I'm gonna take one wire, a yellow wire. I'm color coding it because it matches the wires that we have here. So a yellow wire is going to connect the minus of the battery number 1 to the plus of battery number 2. And then the black wire will go from the minus of number 2 to the motor. All right, so this is a schematic. And so when we build circuits, we just have to follow the schematic, which is like a map, okay, which is like a guide. So we just follow this and we should be good. So this is our battery number 1, okay? Now this is the plus of battery number 1. So that would be this up here, if you can see the little mouse cursor, okay? So that needs to go to the motor. So I'm gonna put it to the motor, all right? Now let's go with the next thing, all right? The minus, or actually just going along the path like this. Now the black wire of the motor, which is this one right here that I have in my hand, okay? It's the black wire from the motor, right? From the motor. That needs to go to the minus of battery number 2. So battery number 2 is not in the screen yet. This is battery number 1. So let's get battery number 2. So I get battery number 2. I also need a housing here. So then I stick it in. Okay? And then again, this is number 1 here, number 2 right here. So looking at it again, I'm just following the map, following my schematic. The minus of battery number 2, which is the black wire right here, okay, right here, needs to connect to the black wire of the motor. So that's this, connects to the black wire of the motor, which is right here in my left hand. Okay, see, I'm just following the map, and it's going to get me to the treasure, get me to the right answer. Now the last thing is the plus of battery number 2 connects to the minus of battery number 1. So this is battery number 2, right? The plus of battery number 2, which is this, connects to the minus of battery number 1. That is right here. So now the problem is like, see, these don't Lego connect together. What is the issue? Well, I gave a hint, right? Inside this bag, there's a yellow wire, which matches our drawing there. And this wire can actually connect both of these together. And there we go. Twice as fast. We have 2 batteries, twice the speed. Okay, so this is a closed circuit. I'm going to open circuit it by disconnecting. And then now let's go ahead and stick this onto there as well. So I'm going to get another sticky foam. All right, I have one right here. And let's go ahead and stick this guy on. Let's find a spot where the wires aren't in the way. All right, so I got a lot of wires going on here, but at least all my housing is all connected. All right, so what do we have here? This is actually called something, and I'm going to write it in this top right corner. This is called a series circuit. So what is a series? A series is when something comes after the other, right? So it's like if you're into movies, you have like Harry Potter 1 and then Harry Potter 2, or Star Wars, you have like a series, right? Like a bunch of movies that come after each other. So that's called a series. So if you look at the batteries, battery number 1 comes right after number 2. Okay? So that's why it's called a series circuit. Now when you make a series circuit, it adds the two batteries together. Now there's another type of circuit that we're going to do called a parallel circuit, and that's going to be what we need in order to use these guys, which are going to be the headlights. Okay, so but I'll kind of explain how that works in a second. All right, but first let's talk about what the circuit's going to look like. So we're going to make a parallel circuit. So I'm going to erase the word series. We're going to do a parallel circuit, and the way that works is like this. Okay, now a parallel means that the item, which is this triangle thing, is next to the motor and next to the batteries. So it doesn't come right after the motor, it's like it's right next to it. Okay, so that's called a parallel. And we need to do that if we want to be able to use these two batteries to power this thing right here. It needs to be next to it, so it's called a parallel. Okay, now this little icon here, that's the engineering icon for LED. Actually, to be accurate, you have these little like arrows, which means like lights coming out of this. Okay, so this right here, this symbol represents one of these. Okay, now if you look at this, we have a light here, and then we have two wires, and if you look closely, one of them has a black stripe on it, one of the wires, okay, and one of them is just pure red. So let's make it look like that. So I'm going back to my circuit here, just so we don't get confused. Let's make sure that it's like this, okay? So red up top, black on the bottom. Now, if we don't do this correctly, the light's actually not going to turn on, okay? So how are we going to make this connection, right? How do we get this to work if these are already connected? So like the motor we can connect to the batteries, which turns it on. But how do we also connect this? There's not enough sockets. There's not enough wires to support everything. Okay, so this is why we have this other thing. This little yellow thing, which is called a breadboard. Okay, so let me explain how that works, how the breadboard works. So I'm going to kind of clear this out. Okay, if you look closely at the breadboard, you're going to see, you got to first turn it lengthwise, okay? Like a hamburger, not like this, okay? If you turn it like that, it's going to get all confusing. So make sure you turn it this way, and then I'll explain how to use this thing. So I'm going to draw it really quickly. Okay. Oh, all right, that's good enough for now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I think there's like 5 rows of these, right? Okay. Not the most beautiful drawing, but sometimes we just gotta say that's good enough for now, right? The important thing is we wanna just learn how this thing works. So if we just look at it this way, I want you to see that there are 5 rows. Rows go side to side. So this is row number 1, this is row number 2, row number 3, row number 4, and row number 5. Okay? Now, how many holes are in each row? We just got to count it. So row 1 has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right? So each of these, let me go with a different color. Each of these rows have 5 holes. Okay? Now what the breadboard does, it allows us to make these kind of complicated connections. When we need to connect many things together, like more than one thing together, we need to use the breadboard. And here's how it works. Underneath, inside the breadboard, there's actually this metal wire that connects all the holes of a row. So I'm drawing these little green lines. That means that this hole, this hole, this hole, this hole, and that hole, all the holes on row number 1, they are connected. Okay, I'm gonna actually go larger screen so that you can see this, okay? So all these holes on row 1, they're connected. All these holes on row 2, they are connected, and so forth, okay? So if the hole is on the same row, those two holes are connected. Now, is a hole from row 1 connected to a hole from row 2? No, those are not connected. All right, so that's the thing to remember. If it's on the same row, the holes are connected. If it's not on the same row, the holes are not connected. So using those two rules, we can make these interesting connections. So let's try this out. All right, the first thing that I want to do is I want to, moving up here, I want to build this, just the motor and the batteries with the breadboard and see if it works. All right. So just to clarify, I want to build, in the blue, just this part. Okay, I'm not going to do the light yet, but I know we've built this already, but I want to build it with the breadboard now. Okay, so how do we do that? So let's first do this. I'm going to take apart everything. That's like a good thing to do, is kind of just start over. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to do the yellow wire first. So that's the minus of battery number 1 needs to connect to the plus of battery number 2, which is here. So I need to connect these two, so I use my yellow wire to do that. Okay. Okay. That's done. Now the plus of number 1 goes into the red wire of the motor. So that's this one goes into the red wire of the motor. So we've done that already, but I want to use the breadboard, okay? So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to take, this is the red wire. I know it's kind of getting hard to see. There's a lot of wire. This is a red wire of the motor. I'm going to stick it into a hole on row number 1. Okay? And then now this, which is the plus of battery number 1, just needs to go in any of these holes on the top row, and that automatically connects it to this wire. Now this needs a spike to go in there. So what do? Well, inside this bag I have these special extenders. I have a red one and also a black one. All right, so we're gonna have to use both of them, but right now we just need the red one because we want to go red matches red. So I'm gonna stick my special connector in there, and then now the plus of number 1, battery number 1, now is connected to a spike. Now the spike can then stick into any of these holes. So I want to connect this to this, so I just need to pick the same row. Okay, great. All right, so now those are connected now. Now let's do the last connection, which is the minus of battery number 2 needs to connect to the black wire of the motor. So the black wire of the motor, that's this guy right here. Okay, that's following this, the black wire of the motor. I'm going to stick that in a new row. Again, I don't want to put it up here because then that would automatically then connect this wire to these two wires because it's on the same row. I don't want that. I want it to be on a different row. So it's a new connection. All right, so I'll stick it down here. All right, now the next thing is, this is the minus of battery number 2. And again, this does not stick into there, so I need the special extender to add a spike to it. So I put this in, and then here we go. It should work. So once I put it in this hole in the same row as the black wire here, it should work. And it does. All right, and just to prove to you, I can put it here. I can also put it here or here. Okay? Any hole on the same row will connect those two wires together. All right, so we just used our breadboard. Now we can add the light. Okay, so going back here. All right, so now let's add the light. This guy right here, okay? So if we look at the light, all we have to do is connect the red. So I'm going to clean up here a little bit. Okay, the red of the light, which is this spike right here, needs to connect to the red of the motor. Well, if we look at this, it's like the red of the motor is on this top row here. So I can just stick it up there like that. Boom. Okay? Now, what's the other one? The minus of the light, which is the black wire. The black wire of the light needs to connect to the black wire of the motor, which is also connected to the minus of the battery. So now, if you notice here, for the light, the two legs are like, see, I'll take this out. They're right next to each other, so it can't stretch. Like I can't stretch this pin right here, the second one, all the way down there. It has to be on the row right under it. So no worries. Why don't I then kind of modify this? Why don't I move these wires like right on row number 2? Okay, it will still work, right? Okay, so now I can then take this guy and put it like that, and automatically, because it's like that, the black wire on the light is now connected to this black wire because it's on the same row here. Okay? Now this black wire also should be on this same row number 2. And then what's going to happen is that my motor will be on and my light will be on at the same time. Let's try this. Check it out. It's moving and my light is on. Sweet. Okay, I'm gonna disconnect. All right, so I know this is kind of getting a little bit crazy here. This is might be a good time to, like, if you didn't quite get it the first time, you can always pause, rewind, pause. Okay, I know that if you've never done breadboarding before, this part can be a little bit challenging. Okay. All right, so let's stick this breadboard onto our car so it's not kind of flying around. So you can take a sticky foam and put it like here, and then we can stick it maybe like right here. I think that's good. I like that. Okay, cool. So now, where were you? So if I make all the connections I'll have the light going as well as the motor. All right, so now I'm gonna take this one out here so that I can work with this. Now, how do I add the second light? Well, it's super easy. We just put it in parallel. So we can take a second light, going back to the whiteboard, and do this. All right, so we just add it to the same rows, right? So we take the second light, which is this one here, all right? And then the red needs to connect to the same row that the other of the other light, the same red wire of the other light. And then the black needs to connect. Because looking at our schematic, our little plan here, the black also connects to the black of the other light. So I have it all set up here, so then you just put it in and make sure you put it in the right way. Okay, so red on top, black on bottom. Now I got both lights, and so it should be like this, okay? So red on top for both, and the one with the black wire on the bottom for both lights. All right, so now we have two parallel circuits, right, with these two lights. And which one did I take out? This wire, which is the minus of the battery. So now I can put this guy in, and once I do this, it should turn on. So put it in the second row here. Okay, it's on, and I got two lights. You can't really see it as bright because of the lighting right now, but if you turn the lights off, it should look pretty cool. All right, so this is a pretty intense circuit, I will admit. But let's pause there. Well, actually, I'm gonna take this off. Let's go ahead and put our lights down. So we could maybe put them like this, right? At the kind of like headlights. So let's go ahead and grab a sticky foam and maybe put it like right there. And then we have one there, and then we have another one there. Cool. We got headlights going, crazy wires. We're learning about parallel circuits and series circuits. If you want to, you can also put one of these stickers over this as well, but I'll leave that part off for now. All right, so I'm going to pause there. The last thing that we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to add the switch to it so that you can turn this thing off and on.